Hello everyone, my name is Raina D. Jute and welcome to my Module 11 Concepts video. So this is the Rocket Food Delivery Project. It's a Spring Boot MVC application for managing restaurants, orders, and products. It's basically a back office system where staff can create and update data in the database. To be upfront, I'm coming from a MERN background, so React, Node, Express, all that. And when I first started looking at Spring Boot, I was pretty confused because it's completely different from how I was used to building applications. Everything is bundled together, there's annotations everywhere, and the server is rendering HTML, not returning JSON. So today I'm going to walk through 3 really confusing concepts that I've been working through and show you how they actually fit together. I'll also trace through a request to show the flow from the browser all the way to the database and back. So without further ado, let's get into it with concept 1. So concept 1 is the full Spring Boot tech stack. So right now on the screen we have POM XML, still don't really know what that is. And then we see all of these dependencies. We've got starter data, starter validation, starter Thymeleaf, starter web, starter security, Spring Boot dev tools. So concept number 1 is the full Spring Boot tech stack architecture, and this is what kind of blew my mind at first. So in a MERN stack, you have like 4 things. You've got MongoDB, Express, React, and Node. And I remember those 4 things being very hard for me to grasp. And now everything is inside of one framework. So if we look at the pom.xml, all these dependencies, JPA handles the database layer, Spring Web handles HTTP routing like Express, Thymeleaf renders templates on the server, Spring Security handles login. It's all built in here. If we take a look at our Rocket Food application.java, this one file, which is 10 lines, starts the entire application. So this @Spring Boot application that we see on the top, annotation tells Spring auto-configure everything. Figure out the database, set up the web server, do all of that stuff for me. Coming from MERN, I'm used to setting up the database pools, Express middleware, Mongoose models, lots of manual wiring, which I like because I can be in control of and I can see it. Here, annotation, 1 line. The reason this is hard for me is because there's magic involved. Spring is doing things behind the scenes that I don't see happening, so I had to learn. Spring uses dependency injection. It creates objects for you, wires them together, and then injects them where they're needed. So when a controller needs a service, the controller doesn't go, new employee service. Instead, the controller says, hey, Spring, give me an employee service, and Spring already created one and hands it over. And if we take a look at the employee controller, so this is the constructor injection. So Spring sees this constructor, realizes employee service is a dependency, and automatically injects it. So I never have to call new, the framework just handles it. And this is actually really elegant once you get to understand it, but it's so different from JavaScript where you're manually importing and instantiating everything. So that's all I've got for concept number 1. Let's move on to concept number 2, which is strong typing and form binding. So if we take a look at employee.java, so this is strong typing and form binding. And honestly, I still don't really understand it, but let's try to talk about it. In JavaScript, objects are fluid. I can just add properties. If I have an object let employee equals, I can go employee name equals John, employee phone equals whatever. The shape changes kind of as I go. In Java, every single type is locked down. This employee class has exact fields with exact types. If I try to set employee name equals John, when there's no name field, it won't compile and the compiler stops me. Look at all these annotations. This not null, 1-to-1, join column, many-to-one, column, generate value. They're all saying these rules are built into the object itself. Phone can't be null. The field must map to a database table. And then if we look at the employee form, when I bind the form to this employee object in Thymeleaf, it's not just passing strings around. It's saying this form field must match the shape of the employee object. So when the form submits, Spring takes form data and automatically creates an employee object and fills in the fields. But if a @not null field is missing, validation fails right there. The form gets rejected before it even hits the service logic. In React, I'm managing form state manually. I have JavaScript, constant, employee, set employee, use state, phone, email, all of the things. And then I have to write custom validation in JavaScript. Here, the validation is baked into the class definition, so it's enforced at the actual type level. It's powerful, but it's also very rigid compared to JavaScript. I have to think through my object shapes up front, no surprises later. So now for concept number 3, which is server-side rendering with Thymeleaf. This was like a mind-blown kind of moment for me. So if we take a look at employee list.html, this one may have been the biggest mental shift for me. So in React, I'm used to fetching JSON from an API. React renders it on the client in the browser. With Thymeleaf, the server does it. So if we look at this each employees, this is like the equivalent of a .map parentheses. It iterates over the employees list. Then this text employee ID puts the actual value right into the HTML. This $ curly braces is a placeholder that Spring replaces with real data. So the flow is the browser requests get backoffice/employees. The controller runs find all and gets a list of employees. Controller puts that list into model with model add attribute employees list. Controller returns the view name, return employee list. Spring finds the template file, Thymeleaf processes it. It sees this each, iterates, replaces employee ID with the actual ID. Complete HTML is generated on the server. HTML is sent to the browser, and then the browser displays it immediately. So there's no JavaScript required. There's no script tags. There's no React. The HTML just arrives ready to display. This is fast for initial page load. The browser gets HTML, not JSON. So it's great for SEO, but it's less interactive. If you wanted to do something dynamic, like filter a list without reloading the page, I would need client-side JavaScript, which Thymeleaf isn't really designed for. So in MERN, I'm thinking React component state, manage it, re-render it on change. In Spring Thymeleaf, I'm thinking user clicks something, form submits, page reloads, server renders new HTML. So now let's do a simple request flow walkthrough so that we, meaning me, understands how this actually works. So in this case, when the user types in the browser localhost 8080/backoffice/employees, step 1 is Spring security checks, are you logged in? If not, we'll redirect you to login. If yes, then you can proceed. Then the employee controller's list employees method is called. This @getMapping means it handles get requests. Then it calls this employee service find all. The service method is super simple in this case. It just passes through the repository, but in a real code base, the service can validate, transform data, apply business rules. Then it goes to employee repository, which generates an SQL select from employees and hits the SQL database. And MySQL returns rows. So Hibernate maps those rows to Java employee objects. Service returns a list employee back to the controller. Then the controller adds that list to model with model.addAttribute employees. Then the controller returns this employee list, which is the template name. Thymeleaf loads employee list.html and processes it with model data. The browser gets complete HTML with the employee data embedded, and then it renders. So that's the whole flow, to the best of my knowledge. So to sum up, Concept 1 is that Spring Boot is a fully integrated framework. Everything from security to database to HTML rendering is built in. Concept number 2 is that Java's strong typing locks your object shapes and validates form data automatically. And then concept number 3 is that Thymeleaf renders HTML on the server and not on the client. These 3 things together create a very different development environment and experience than MERN stack. It's less flexible in some ways, but it's also very structured and predictable. I'm still learning all of it, especially the nuances of lazy loading, cascading deletes, and some of the more complex Spring annotations, but this is how I'm understanding it so far. So thanks for listening, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one. You know, Coach ET, the other day when we were talking about The Office, and you asked me who I related most to, and I said Dwight and Andy, and you said ball curve. Didn't see that coming. The actual saying is curveball, and all I can think about as I've started this week's module is ball curve, everything you thought you knew you don't. Ball curve, you can't use any of the tech that you know how to use, and we're giving you 14 new ones. Ball curve.